All right, good morning, cowboys, cowgirls, and outlaws. Welcome to the Slick Six Guns Network. I'm your host, Slick Six Guns, and we are going to be having a live stream today for those of you who are tuning in. So it's good to have you on. As always, this is meant to be a Q&A session. Really, that's what we're doing here. This is just a Q&A. If you guys look above me, you're going to see that we have a pretty interesting topic to talk about today, which will be really fun. So I'm glad that we're in on this, and feel free to jump into the comments section, hit the like button, let me know how the audio, how the video is, and let's get started. So first off, this is definitely a social hour. And wherever you guys are watching from, I think you're going to enjoy this content. Give it a like, all that stuff. But make sure that you guys grab your coffee, whatever it is that you're interested in. Right now, I've got soda. So, hello, Jack. Hey, welcome onto the channel. Thank you for joining me. As you can see, we're going to be talking about this today, a few other things. And, definitely if you guys have questions on it or questions on me, feel free to let me know. And I'll go ahead and just kind of talk about all that stuff. And, I've been making a few videos. And, I got some posted today. So you guys got some more content up there. And then obviously, as you can see, we got this live stream, which is currently going on. But let's kind of get into the meat and potatoes. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll answer them live in the actual comment section here, and we can go ahead and have a nice dialogue, hopefully. But basically, I just kind of want to talk a little bit about my experience with the Henry Repeating Arms Henry. That's what I'm going to be talking about specifically. For those of you who don't know what that is, that's up there. Yes, it's just a picture. Apologize if I'm kind of going in and out. It has to do with the fact that I got a green screen behind me, and I wanted to make sure that I had some stuff on there. Excuse me. So, let's kind of talk about my experience with the Henry Repeating Arms Henry, what I think of it and all that. This is not a comprehensive review by any means. The Henry Repeating Arms Henry can be utilized in cowboy action, specifically with the main match rifle. It can be utilized as a main match rifle. It really isn't something that you see a lot out there, but there are people that definitely do choose it, definitely do use it, so it is relatively common. There are different variations of the Henry. So I would say that, you've got the Henry Repeating Arms Henry, and then you've got the Uberti Henry. And obviously, there are some differences in between. Well, there's no well, yeah, there is, but that's neither here nor there. But basically, you've got those two choices to choose from as far as main match rifles are concerned. And, it's based on your preference on looks and all that stuff. I talked a little bit about this yesterday, but what I am going to say is that my experience with the Henry Repeating Arms Henry, why I chose it, all that, is the Henry Repeating Arms Henry is more expensive than the Uberti. Aesthetically, it is the most beautiful that you're going to have. Compared to the Uberti, even though the Ubertis are still nothing to sniff at, I still think they're great. Definitely that is something that if you are considering utilizing in your main matches, I think that that's something you should go with. They're obviously more expensive, as I said. You're talking basically about $1,000 more is what you're going to pay to get those things. I would say the contour of the rifle itself as far as historicity and all that is concerned, it's going to be significantly different. Well, I mean, not significantly, but it's going to be different. It's going to have smoother edges than the actual harder stuff. You know, the barrel itself is going to be more rounded than octagonal, even though it's octagonal, and you can definitely see there's flats and all that stuff. Arthur Morgan, hello, boy. Hello, boy. Yeah, I'll try giving you my best Arthur Morgan impression. I don't know. You're my favorite parasite, you know. Wait a second. You're my second favorite parasite. So, anyway, I'll try to give that a shot. You know, if you want me to say something like Arthur, you know, what Arthur Morgan does. I know that I got a lot of Red Dead Redemption fans, and this is the Litchfield repeater on that game. So, you know, maybe you recognize it. And Arthur Morgan says, it's good. Hey, don't forget to give that a like button a smash, and so that we can kind of get up there and, you know, kind of let people know that this live stream is going on, all that stuff, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. You know, oh, thank you for smashing that like button. All right, what different calibers does it come in? Okay, Yep, Arthur Morgan, you were the first like. Okay, so this is a question about the 1860 Henry repeating arms Henry, for those of you who are just tuning in. So what different calibers does it come in? To my knowledge, it comes in two, 45 Colt and 4440. I haven't seen anything other than that at this point. I could be wrong. You know, but the one that I have is 4440, and the 45 Colt was a later one, but it first came out in 4440, which I guess they were trying to mirror the original because it was a 44 caliber cartridge, but obviously it's center fire. So I think that kind of, you know, was the aesthetic of it, but then as more people found out about it and they started introducing their different iterations of it, and we'll talk about that a little bit, they started adding the 45 Colt caliber. There are modifications, and this is not for the Henry repeating arms Henry that I know of. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But you can actually do a modification to fire what they call 45 Cowboy Special out of the Uberti that I know of. And that means they basically take they put a nice little spring modification into the actual lifter, and it allows it to accommodate that shorter cartridge rather than jam the gun up. So overall length definitely is going to cause this gun to function or not, of the cartridge, that is. But yeah, I hope that answers your question about the calibers. Great question. Thank you for asking. If you guys by chance know if it came out in any other calibers, let me know. But I think it only came out in 2. So thank you. So where was I with this? Basically, I was talking about the fact that the Henry repeating arms Henry is going to be more expensive. Aesthetically, it's going to look a little bit different than the Uberti, and going to look a little different than the original on the outside. To the untrained eye, you probably won't notice it, but once you get up close and personal, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But I will say that it is a very beautiful version. It's definitely one of my prettiest looking guns that I have. So that's what I would say about that. With that being said, you know, the bluing on it is absolutely exquisite. They did a great job on it. It's a very deep royal blue. I love that about it. I'd say that the rear sight is kind of flimsy, which I really didn't know about until I got my Uberti 1860. But you know, the rear sight is held in by a flat spring, essentially. And allows it to kind of snap into place. But the Henry repeating arms Henry, they didn't really, in my opinion, didn't do a very good job of making that spring very strong, and so it kind of moves. It doesn't stay in place. that might not mean a whole lot because of the caliber. So, it's a heavy rifle. The recoil isn't going to really knock that sight around. And as I said, I have taken that rifle out to distance, out to about 300, 400 yards. You know, so have you heard of the Winchester 1867? No, I have not. Doesn't mean there's something like that doesn't exist. I'm not sure. There's the 66 model, the 1873 model, the 1860, but the Winchester 1866 was the first one to bear the Winchester name. So 1867, historically, I'm not familiar with that, but you can go ahead and leave it in the comments or let me know what you kind of have found out. But I don't, in at least most of the people and most of the books I've read, most of the information I've gotten, I've never heard of a model like that. But I'm sure they always came out with prototypes and stuff like that. That's kind of the interesting nuance about these creation of, about the creation of this stuff. Okay. Good night, sir. All right. Well, hey, Citram, thank you for joining. You have a good night as well. Arthur Morgan, I think it's a 1866. I forgot. Yes, I have heard of the 1866. It's the one real. It's the first rifle to bear the Winchester name, as I stated. Do I have a Winchester 1866? I have a Uberti Winchester 66 replica. I know that Moroku makes them again. So Moroku is the outsourced company for Winchester that actually makes them on the in Japan, and then they import them into the U.S. with the Winchester name. And I mean, I'm sure they're great guns. To be honest, I think they're great quality overall with Morokus. So you're bouncing around there, Arthur. You're going from the 66 to the 73. Yes, those are two different models, 60, 73, 66. It's all the toggle link actions, yeah. So all those I've heard of. I'm a big Winchester guy, so we talk about that a lot on the channel. But yeah, the 66, they do have originals out there. I have not held one, but I'm sure they're good rifles. To my knowledge, they came up with the 66 had a model that actually could hold at least one more cartridge, I think, than the 1860. But I could be wrong. The 1873, once again, yes, I have heard of the 1873. It is a more, collectively known as the rifle that won the West, although there's debate about, which gun won the West. And on the same topic, that was also a marketing ploy. So, yes, I'm familiar with the 73. If you got questions about that, let me know. We don't just have to talk about the 1860, but I would like to talk about my 1860 experience so that you guys kind of know if that's something you're thinking about getting, what you guys think of it. But as I was saying, the rear sight on the 1860 Henry, repeating arms Henry, is kind of flimsy. So I really wasn't impressed with that, although it is still accurate nonetheless, and obviously accuracy is going to depend on the shooter. The brass itself, or the brass light receiver that they, say has the same tensile strength as steel, which is relatively accurate, I think. I don't think it's made out of the gunmetal parts that they used way back when, so the craftsmanship is there. It's a really good gun. With that being said, I think it's good. The wood that they utilize on it, I will say that the wood that they utilize on their plain models, I think is top notch. In my opinion, I think it's some of the best wood you can see on some of these rifles. I think Moroku does a good job as well when it comes to their 73. I haven't seen their 66. Uberti, to me, in my opinion, and even though a lot of people can go around and say, well, you can strip the varnish and all that stuff, that's a lot of work to kind of get that done and then kind of doctor it up yourself. I'm sure that's true, but to be honest with you, I don't have time for it. And I think Uberti kind of cheapens out on that. I think it adds a little more color, I will say that, but I don't think it's as beautiful. So I would say that the 1860 Henry repeating arms Henry has very good looking wood, and obviously they like to say in their advertisements that it's American walnut and all that. And the Henry Repeating Arms Henry line, they have, not only do they have its plain Jane version, they also have other versions. So to include the calibers, they also have the original plain version, then they have the silver plated version, then they have the special engraved version, and obviously all that stuff is going to go up in price as you go get it. So, I mean, you're spending anywhere on these guns, you're talking anywhere from 2,500, 3 grand to almost 6, 7, 8 grand sometimes, to get those. And yes, they are functional, with modern day ammunition. So, I mean, that's the plus there. But nonetheless, I think it's still really cool. The rifle itself is relatively heavy. So I will say that utilizing it at competition, there are definite disadvantages to it. I already mentioned one, which was the rear sight. So, but with that being said, I mean, the other disadvantages that you have are a lot of the things that many other people would complain about. So you're talking anywhere from your exposed magazine tube to having to load the rounds in through the top of the tubular magazine to having to hold the barrel because there's no hand guard and forend and all that stuff, And so, I mean, consequently, you could cause yourself more injury shooting that rifle. Not to mention the out of battery discharges that you could potentially have, which does happen and can happen with models such as the 66 and the 73 historic, or in the 60 historically. I have not had that happen with this rifle. I know that I've heard stories of people who have had out of battery discharges with a 66. I've seen it, not personally, but in videos, I have seen it happen. So that is kind of unfortunate. That is sort of a weakness, if you will, but you just got to make sure that you close the lever all the way, and don't let the gases escape. Arthur Morgan says, I love Western guns, but I got to go. I'll be back in about 5 minutes. Okay, well, I'll see you in 5 minutes. All right, just come on back. We should still be here. Hopefully conversation kind of, keeps going, continues. I hope people ask more questions. Please let me know in the comments section what you would like to know about the Henry Repeating Arms Henry or anything in general. You can ask it about the rifle. You can ask it about me. You can ask what I do for a living, all that stuff. I mean, a lot of this stuff I have talked about before, but I always like talking to my viewers and just, seeing what's kind of going on. I have been making content for you guys consistently. You've been getting content every day at some point, whether it be through posts, shorts, live streams, working on the long form content as we speak. But that might come along more as, later on. But I do want to let you guys know that we're definitely out there. So if you just jumped on, tell your friends about it. If this is an episode they're interested in, and then also, give me a like. I would like that because that would definitely help push it to more viewers and obviously more viewers who are actually interested in this type of content. But as you know, we've been doing live streams for the last couple of days, the last 3 days straight. I've had some live streams. I may have more. I'm not sure on that one. Haven't really gotten a whole lot of feedback on how these live streams typically have been good for people or not. So, please let me know if you like them or if you want me to do something specific. I mean, that'd be kind of helpful. It just really depends. But, as I said, kind of going back to the topic here, I haven't seen anyone personally have out of battery discharges with this thing. I have not seen anybody accidentally let the spring go and then have the magazine detonate because the rounds are on top of each other and all that stuff. Even though I know those are all fears that people typically have. I'm sure they happen, but to be honest with you, obviously it's kind of rare. Specifically with this model by Henry Repeating Arms, and knowing their company, that they're American made, they're an American company. They really stand behind their product, and I think that's really something they can be proud of. And I think that's something that I think is a really good quality, especially if you're looking for good customer service. If that's something that you really want out of your Henry experience, I think Henry Repeating Arms is the way to go, in my opinion, just because they stand behind their product, and then on top of that, their customer service is good quality. If that's something that's important to you, then I'd say they're number one in it as far as I'm concerned. You may think differently. Let me know in the comments section if you've had a bad experience with Henry Repeating Arms or this rifle in general. Let me know. Okay. How's your hand doing, man? I noticed you got a little bit of a cut or something on your right hand. Love the videos. Please keep them up. First off, thank you. I noticed that a lot of people do notice specifics about my hands, because sometimes my hands have a tendency to be the stars of the show. I don't always show my face, and therefore, you focus on what's in the video, right? So obviously, anything that I've done with my hands physically end up, wounds or otherwise, or long nails or weird thumbs or all that, people have a tendency to comment on, and I'm always open to definitely answering that. Thank you for your concern, first of all. Yes, my hand is fine. Honestly, what happened there was I actually was working on my vehicle the other day, and what ended up happening was I got my hand caught while I was actually trying to take care of the oil. What do you call it? I was trying to take care of the oil filter container, the canister, because that's the way my car is set up. Is you have to remove the actual cap for the canister, and it got caught on a piece of metal, and it basically just scratched it up real good. So wear gloves if you're going to do things like that. That was a lesson learned on my part. I never had that happen before. It's still there. And yeah, it may look a little fresh, and that's because sometimes I scratch it and I don't notice it. And then before you know it, I'm bleeding all over the place. So yeah, it is healing though. So thank you. It was actually a lot worse. But there we go on that. Thank you for asking. I appreciate it. So, anyway, all right. Arthur Morgan says, I'm back. Well, welcome back, Arthur. I'm not Dutch by any means. I'm not that kind of person. So, but I definitely think Arthur Morgan is a funny character in the series. I think he definitely made that. He definitely made that video game. So I mean, just well done, I would say. So that's my opinion. Okay, so what else can I kind of say about the Henry? We talked about the customer service. We kind of talked about its negatives. Now, I would say in competition in general, other than, so there's ways you can mitigate some of the issues. First off, in cowboy action, you're typically not shooting long range that much. You're usually shooting about 25 yards and in. So the rear sight having to be lifted up, that's not really going to be much of a concern. Shoot, some people don't even use the rear sight anyway, because they're just in that close. But at the same time, so that's a way to mitigate that. But if you're going to do long distance, I can see it being a bit of an issue. It's okay. I think the impressions are cool. Okay. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. I would say that that's the way to mitigate the rear sight. As far as the barrel and overheating and all that stuff, just make sure that when you're putting those rounds in, that you're just as careful as possible. I show you on this channel, whether you know it or not, how to actually properly load a Henry Go take a look at that. That is definitely a proper way to do it. You have to lower that magazine tube down. Don't slam it down. But if you fully load the magazine, you don't put just onesies and twosies in there. The magazine follower doesn't drop that far anyway, but nonetheless, I still recommend that you still hold that follower and then slowly lower it down. So, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, that right there is the follower, okay? I should say the follower tab, okay? Because the follower is actually what's in the gun. So you can't physically touch that unless you physically put your fingers in there, and you know that's how it goes. Anyway, so I would just say properly load it. So that's a good way to mitigate any sort of barrel discharge or magazine discharge, I should say. As far as the overheating on a hot day, any day that you're holding that stuff in the heat, the metal's going to get hot just by that alone. And then if you shoot it, whether it's smokeless or black powder, it's going to get hot. And the best way to mitigate that, in my opinion, and what many people have said anyway, is to utilize a glove, which works. Just put a standard glove on, And in cowboy action, you can find leather gloves and all that work. Okay, so I mean, just get a glove, utilize it as your offhand, and not your trigger hand, obviously, unless you kind of want that. So you can wear two gloves if you want, but I mean, typically you just wear one glove for the hand that's holding the barrel, and that for the most part takes care of a lot of the problems. As far as the dust and stuff and the issues with stuff getting into the magazine, other than the rounds themselves, I never run into that. I'm not saying it won't happen, and I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but to be honest with you, I mean, let's be honest, we don't always use these rifles like they did back in the day, okay? So we're not taking, we're not really taking we're not taking this thing out into the boonies and using it, and we're not on a wagon train, and we're not carrying it in the car and all that stuff that, with an exposed magazine. And it's not like people always had cases to carry these things in, because if they had these weapons out, they would want to have them easily accessible. So, they would be sitting in the, sitting on the buckboard where their feet were, all that stuff. And so, and oxen and horses can kick up a bunch of dust, so I'm sure maybe they had some issues with that. And this was also, once again, something that came around during the American Civil War, and obviously, people in the battle conditions that they were in when they were not in camp, not saying that they would get in the prone or get muddy, but I'm sure there were situations where they had that, and weather was austere at times. So that was something, and I have heard stories, and I'm sure it's to an extent true. Pretty much the people that had the repeating rifles were often targeted first, because they wanted to take out the firepower. So, you gave away your position knowing that they were going to definitely gun for you. And especially when this cartridge is something that, wasn't meant to be super duper long distance, and this isn't a sniper situation. These are people who are relatively close range. We're talking less than 100 yards, and you had rifles, muskets capable of reaching out to 400 or 500 yards. It was something that they would take a shot at. Let's see. Arthur Morgan says, sorry, I'm not commenting much. I'm watching a movie with my niece. That's okay. Let me know what movie you're watching. I'd like to hear. Corey says, is it possible for a round to go off if you drop the ammunition inside of the magazine tube in a harsh way? Just curious. I've never had it happen. All right, so that doesn't mean that it can't happen, and I'm not going to use an absolute in that answer. I'll just talk about the way that the rifle round is set up for the Henry Repeating Arms Henry. This has nothing to do with the original. We're talking the modern day Henry Repeating Arms Henry. The rounds are typically in competition going to be flat-nosed, and they are typically going to be made of lead. Now, I know there's different developments out there when you talk about uh, like the Hornady lever revolution and all that, but those rounds aren't allowed in cowboy action. So I typically use the round nose flat point bullets that go into the gun. If you seat the primer in all the way, it's not, what you would call a high primer, and those things detonate because of impact force and not pressure. And I mean, you do get light hammer strikes on stuff if you lighten up springs, so even then that can still happen when you're normally functioning the gun. So, I mean, it would have to be a pretty good amount of force, in my opinion. Now, I'm sure the primer densities and primer types is going to matter. There are primers that set off a lot easier than others. So, once again, I'm not going to give you an absolute on that. Is it possible? I'm sure anything's possible on that. I have not seen it. I have not heard of it happening in our area, but I mean, if it is a concern, just don't drop the rounds in. Be a little bit more judicious on gravity. Always put the thing at an angle, and that's what I recommend anyway. And to be honest with you, I mean, I guess you could look at people put it on their foot and then drop the rounds in, but to be honest with you, I mean, you're not expediently loading this thing for the most part, and so you can take your time with it. So the safest way is best, in my opinion, if it is, if that's what you want to do. So, yeah, I'd say it's possible. Yeah, I'm not going to give you an absolute on that, but never heard of it happening. At least with the Henry repeating arms Henry. I know that, what's his name, Ian McCollum had that happen. I'd have to rewatch the video for him to discuss exactly what happened in that way, but that is the only modern instance that I have heard of that. I'm sure there's people out there that have seen it too. I'm not the only one. So I'm just going off of my personal views. Okay, I hope that answers your question. She's only 2, and we are watching The Good Dinosaur on Disney. That's a good movie. I got kids, for those of you guys who don't know. So I know exactly what you're talking about. Cool. Ironically, that's kind of like a Western, sort of, in a very cartoonish sense. Kids probably won't pick up on it, but adults might, depending on who you are. Yeah, so anyway, good questions. Thank you. So yeah, I talked a little bit about the, how you can mitigate the negatives. And as I said, you don't really see them super often in the cowboy action circles, especially at the, depending on where you're at, I'm sure. I don't know, maybe there's a lot of people, a lot of people that do use them, and I just don't see them. But I'm also going off of how often I actually get out there. And to be honest with you, I mean, it's been a while since I've been out to a cowboy match. So maybe more people have purchased Henrys for all I know. But from all the circles I've seen and listened to, the forums I've seen, a lot of people just have questions about normally the 1873 or the 66. You very rarely see something about the Henry. And more often than not, what I've seen on that answer is, well, drop that and get a 73. But to be honest with you, we don't all do the cowboy action for the speed. We don't always do it for the competition. We do it for the historicity, the authenticity, the kindness of the players, the friendly competition that it is, and yes, it is competitive. But that's kind of why people do it. So there's multiple reasons. Okay. Do I like Clint Eastwood? I think he's done some good movies. If you know, saying as an actor, I think he's okay. I think he's done some good movies. I do like a few of the movies he's in. You know, Unforgiven comes to mind. The Good, Bad, and the Ugly comes to mind. You know, even though they're not westerns, you know, you're talking about movies like The Mule. I think he was good in playing an old guy. I think he did. I think that was actually a really good movie. You know, and I mean, yeah, I like him. That's my answer on that one. Hopefully, you know, if you're asking the question, you know, I would push it back to you and ask you the same. You know, do you like him? I would assume you do, considering you brought it up. You know, and I would assume, I'm sure there's other actors we could talk about. You know, if we're talking about actors that I really like, I think, you know, and it's just because of my generation. For those of you who don't know, I'm actually 36 years old. So a lot of the westerns that I'm going to be familiar with and reference are mostly going to be those of the 90s. So Tombstone is one of them. So there you go. 10-4. Thank you, sir. Also, I was curious if you have seen the photo of an 1847 Walker conversion with the ejection rod attached. I would absolutely love to figure out a way to attach one to mine. Well, first off, great. I'm glad that you have a 1847 Walker. I guess you have a conversion. It's already converted. So yes, to my knowledge, they do have that. The conversion, that is. Now, the ejector rod, that's interesting. Because the way that you know, I'm not going to say I know because I don't. Does the conversion for the Walker replica have a loading gate? If not, I don't see how an ejector rod is really going to help you. So let me know. Let me know on that before I answer that question. Have I seen it? No, I haven't seen one. So no, I haven't. Also, but it doesn't mean it doesn't exist either. Also, I was curious if the Walker was allowed in SAS. Absolutely, it is. Yes, it can be shot. It is. It's heavy, so you know you're going to. Yeah, it's heavy, so you're talking about a 4 pound revolver being strapped to your hip, and you're gonna have two of them in competition typically. Cringe Bunny says, "Hey, buddy. All right. Hello. Hey, back. Thank you." You know, so I was curious if the Walker was allowed in SAS. Yes, it is. It's allowed in SAS. Just keep in mind that you're going to be packing two of them, and I know that sometimes if you only have one, they may modify the rules based on a club. You know, if you want to utilize, you know, load the rifle twice or something like that. I know that some club members have a tendency to do things like that if you can't afford, or they might even loan you an extra. I don't know. But I mean, yes, you can. I don't really see it that often. I see a lot of people, if they're going to shoot percussion guns, surprisingly, the most I've seen has been the Ruger Old Armies. You know, but I'm sure there's people out there that use the old stuff too. Have you heard of the Western Bone Tomahawk? Yes, and I think it's a good movie too. It's scary, but I mean, it's meant to be. Even freaked me out a little bit. Yep, agree. Great movie. 36. Yep. Yes, I am still young, if you will. But the great reason about that is that I'm going to be around for a while. So you guys really get to enjoy this. So if I'm on here, I've been on here for 6 or 7 years already on, you know, on YouTube. And if I'm on here for the next 10, 20 years, 30 years, you know, being a 36-year-old man and going all the way to 66, I mean, you'll get content for days. be able to share it on with your posterity, for crying out loud. So I think that's a great thing. So as far as being a younger guy into the Western stuff, I'm not really, it doesn't faze me. If people say, well, why would a younger guy be talking about all this stuff that's more like an older man's game? Or, I don't really know as much that I'm really talking about. Well, to be honest with you, it depends on interest, depends on education. I am self-educated when it comes to a lot of this stuff. It has to do with experience. I've spent just in the SaaS community alone. I'm not like a big name, if you will, because I don't compete as often as I probably should have. I do periodically compete. It is one of my favorite Western sports to be in. And on top of that, I haven't won any major competitions. So I'm not sitting here winning, world championships or national championships or end of trail or whatever what we typically call it. End of trail or winter range. I'm not winning those competitions here. A smaller community that I'm part of is Cowboy Fast Draw. That's something that, that's a smaller community. I guess a few more people might know me. I haven't won any major competitions in that either, but, that's kind of the thing. I just enjoy shooting just as much as anybody, but I'm self-educated in all my stuff. I've learned it from, reading books on my own, reading articles, doing my own research. Depending on how you view that, you could see me as an ignorant person, but I like to think that I check my sources pretty well when I'm getting my information. I try not to give false information, ever. And if I do, I apologize in advance. That is not something that I try to do. Okay. Arthur Morgan says, I love that Western. Corey says, Uberti Walker with cartridge conversion with loading gate and 1873 style ejection rod attached. Yeah, I got the feeling that's what you were talking about. Okay, so it does have a loading gate. Okay, good. So, yeah, obviously sounds like it would work in that situation then. But I have never heard of them making an ejection rod to be attached there. That'd be quite a modification. Be the next Hickok 45. I agree. To be honest with you, the Hickok 45 was one of the first people I watched when I first started looking at YouTube as doing it as a career. For those of you, I'm sure everybody on this channel knows him. He's been on for years, since at least 2010, 2012, maybe even earlier. So he's been 10 years or over. He's got like 7 million followers in the gun community. But he doesn't do all Western stuff. He loves Western stuff, but he doesn't do all Western things. And so that's kind of why I like where I'm at. I kind of fill that gap a little bit, but I'm a little bit more on the technical side. And then I really do get into history. I do dedicated videos on history, whereas he kind of does like showcases, shooting, and kind of gives his opinion, I guess what you would consider a review. But I like to think I give real reviews of things, and I do dedicated videos and stuff. So my content has a tendency to be shorter, but at the same time, you're getting more for your time, in my opinion. Hickok 45, you got to watch his videos for a significant amount of time, and on average, his videos are normally 15 to 20 minutes long, and sometimes longer, depending on what you're looking for. But he is a fun to watch. I will admit, he is very inspirational. Okay, I do like Hickok 45. I think he's got a lot of knowledge. I think he has a lot of experience. I don't think he's right all the time. We can debate that as much as possible. It really depends. Okay. Just remember, there was a time when no one knew who Bob Munden was. Yeah, and I guess you could say that about just anyone. People barely knew him, and then they all of a sudden became something. That's not to say that people don't know who I am. I'm sure there are plenty of people that do. But I am nowhere near having the following that some of these guys have. So, with that being said, let me kind of get back into focus here. I think it has to do with the rocking chair that I'm in, but you know, obviously the green screen doesn't help. But I was kind of hoping to an extent that people would pay attention to this, as if to say that's what we're talking about. You know, I think that's great. But yeah, people didn't really know who those individuals were, and then all of a sudden they became somebody, and that could be me. But once again, I could be doing really well right now. Right now, I wouldn't know it. I'm just kind of making content, what I think I need to make, and all that stuff. And you know, for those of you who just got on, feel free to ask me questions about just anything. We can talk. It's what we're here for. Let me know where you're watching from. I always like hearing where my people are watching from. If you're from Texas, hey, I'm your man. I am a Texas guy here. I know I got people from all around the world that love to watch this stuff. So, you know, just welcome. All right. Okay. Corey says, give it time. Yeah, I will. Definitely. Like I said, I'm here for the long haul. I'm not really going anywhere. For those of you guys that don't know, I put content out every day, whether it be a live stream, a short, long form video. I think right now we're at about 865 videos total, which is quite a bit. Mind you, the majority of them are shorts. So, but I mean, that has to do with kind of my strategy of growth. So, you know, right now I'm kind of in a shorts production phase, and then I'm going to go back into long form, and then we'll kind of go from there. You know, kind of adding the live streams a little bit, and I'll probably, you know, I may slow down with the live streams here. I just want to see after doing, you know, a couple days straight, kind of how much engagement I get, how much interest I get, what people really want to talk about. But nonetheless, I think live streams are important because it gives me a chance to connect with the audience, and hence the reason why we're having these conversations. So I think that's great. You know. So, okay, to kind of get back on topic, because I know we had that. To get back on topic about the actual Henry rifle, Henry repeating arms. Love from Lexington, North Carolina, man. Okay. Yep. I've never been to North Carolina. I've been to South Carolina. But yeah, thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time. I would say definitely, you know, I talked a lot about negatives. I talked about how to mitigate the negatives. Let's talk about the positives other than the aesthetics, okay? So let's talk about the positives with the Henry repeating arms Henry. You're getting a good quality gun with great customer service, as I said. And then it's also, I mean, it's a great shooter. You know, shoots as well as it looks. So that's what I would say. I think it can be finicky with ammunition. Once again, now we're kind of getting back into, you know, kind of a critique. But 4440, I mean, the type that they make now, I know that there's a few out there who okay, I'll answer that question in a second. I think that's kind of weird. Are you trying to quiz me on math to see how smart I am? Is that what we were going for? What you know, test my intelligence. There we go. Anyway, let me kind of finish what I'm talking about, then I'll answer that question. But are we, when we're talking about the types of 44 ammunition that are out there, there are some that are going to feed well into this rifle, and there's some that aren't. And I will say that the best luck I've had with 4440 ammunition in this rifle in particular has been a smooth cartridge with no indentation, no what they call a crimp in the middle. I know that MagTech has a tendency to do that, MagTech ammunition, and that was one of the first ammunition that I utilized in putting it into action, and it didn't work out that well at all. So definitely, if you can, I would get, my recommendation is if you can get Starline brass, the smoothest stuff you can find, and load that up, because 4440 is a necked cartridge. And I do hear complaints about it being weak, could potentially break, all that stuff. But I think it's a good round. But yeah, just make sure it can get finicky with ammo, at least at the one I have. So, smoothest cartridge, you won't have a problem. All right. Howdy, boy. Can you help me with my Algebra 2 homework? How do you solve 2 to the power of x equals 5? Okay? Well, I think, pretty much that means 2 to what square is going to equal 5? Well, it's going to have a decimal in it, I'm sure. So, it's going to be, 2.1 or something like that. Okay? X equals 2.1. Maybe. I could be wrong. See, I hope I solved the question when it comes to math. I'm not good at math, I'll be honest. So you may not want to put that down. Your teacher might fail you. Okay. I hope that helps. So, anyway, so ammunition-wise, that's kind of what we're talking about. What else? Zeroing is another one. God. With zeroing these rifles, you have to do, depending on what you're going to zero it to. Okay. Yeah, hey, so Skylar, the creator, asked, what is this? He says, thanks for the help. I don't think I helped you that much. I don't think it really solved your problem. You might have gotten the wrong answer, but you're welcome. What is this a Q&A of? Q&A for this right here. This is what we're talking about. The Henry Repeating Arms Henry rifle. We're talking about it's kind of my personal experience of it, what I think of it, all that stuff. So if you have questions about it, let me know. And we can talk about it. So yeah, we talk about a lot of gun content on here, and it may seem pretty techy. No, it's not a Henry Golden Boy. Henry Golden Boys are typically their 22 models. So this is called the Henry Repeating Arms Original Henry. New Original Henry, I would say, because it's not the original Henry. And we can talk about that. I could go on a tangent on that all day. But anyway, okay, what is the leaf sight's purpose? Okay, well, it's the rear sight. The leaf sight is, just the rear sight, and it's going to help with your distance. So, I mean, if I remember correctly, the hash markings go out to, I think they go out to 400. But that's a stretch, Even though I have made a shot out that far, I can tell you it's probably not worth taking a shot that far. Especially if you're trying to take out a point target or something like that, Now, an area target, that might be a little different. But point target, person at that range, you might hit him somewhere. You may not hit him exactly where you want to, but you might hit him. Anyway. Okay. So, what else are we talking about with this thing? Maintenance. I think that's important to talk about as well. What's my opinion on the maintenance of this rifle? I think it's harder to maintain than the other ones, I'll be honest. It definitely, if you're going to have to do a detailed cleaning of that thing, you're going to have to take the side plate off, and the side plate is dovetailed in, and it's, you gotta be careful. You know, I mean, use a you can use a padded mallet or a plastic mallet or a brass mallet to kind of help you get it out. You just got to be careful. You don't want to mess up the metal, because that's another. I'm giving you guys a lot of downsides. I don't know if you noticed that, but I'm giving you a lot of downsides, and maybe it's just because I'm giving a critique. I love this rifle, by the way. I just want to put that out there. I love it. It's my favorite actually. But I mean, man, I'm actually giving you a lot of critiques on this thing. I hope it's good information that you're enjoying. But anyway, let's get back to maintenance. Um, you're gonna have to take the side plate off, and it doesn't peel off. It's dovetailed in. You have to knock it out, and so you have to be careful with the metal and stuff, and make sure you use the appropriate small hammer or whatever to get it out, and you know, and then you're gonna have to take the parts and oil them up and clean them up and wipe them down and all that stuff. It gets easier as you do it more. I will say that, but I mean, it's definitely not a 73. You're not, you can't just take a screw out and take the side plate off. You have to. You're taking the lever screw out to get that thing off. And that all on its own is also under tension. So I mean, you have to kind of know what you're doing. And I don't mean to make a gunsmith out of people here, but I mean, if that's what you want to do, by all means, I think this is great content for you to start learning. That's something that I'm always into. For those of you who don't know, I actually got my FFL recently, so that is, something. But anyway, so yeah, maintenance is kind of a pain. I'll be honest. Yeah, the side plates are a pain. You just got to know what you're doing. Um, and you just don't want to mess up the brass because you don't want to mess up the looks of it. The brass does get tarnished. I just like with anything that's that shiny, but some Brasso will clean it up pretty good. Um, you don't have to do it all the time, but from time to time, it's good to do. Um, cleaning out the barrel isn't terribly difficult. Um, all that stuff. So maintenance wise, I think it's one of the one of if you had more experience and you had more competence, I think you're okay to do maintenance on this thing. If you're a novice and this is your first rifle that you get, I think you're going to learn the hard way. And that's a lot to be said when you're talking about a 25 to, maybe a $3,000 to an $8,000 rifle, depending on what you got. Shoot, you may never fire it or may never clean it. To that, if you're going to shoot it, it's your rifle. Do with it as you will. I personally prefer to clean my rifles, especially after competition. Now, if I'm just sporadically shooting, I don't always clean immediately. I don't always clean all the time. If I use black powder, I do. That's just kind of one of those things you should do. And if you want to have a functioning gun and working gun and not have a lot of issues, you should clean after that. But I mean, the smokeless powder that we have now and the way that works, maintenance isn't as critical, if you will. How well do you want your gun to function? Let's put it that way. If you want it to function all the time, then just do cleaning every now and then. If you do a lot of shooting, then clean it every time you shoot. If you just hunt every now and then, clean it once a year. If that. Put some oil on the outside and then put it away. And then maybe put a couple patches down the barrel. I don't know. Up to you. What other questions you guys got? Let me know about this rifle in particular or anything else we can talk about. Let me know what you're drinking. I know that it is 5 o'clock somewhere. So y'all can enjoy the y'all can enjoy the, you know, just the coffee and the conversation and all that stuff. So, you know, anyway. How you guys doing out there? It's good to hear everybody's doing well. And, you know, I never really done live streams with Q&As. It's mostly been I've had some type of guest on, and those guests have been pretty well scripted, to at least know what we're talking about ahead of time. You know, they're not to say that their answers are not authentic, but I mean the Q&As I think are important. Whether we do them every day, once a month, once a week, I don't know. We'll see. It's just different, and I think bringing up a specific type of topic to begin with to get a conversation starter is good. The last couple days, I pretty much just spent talking about myself. So I don't know, you know, kind of giving you my background and all that stuff. I don't know if that's something you really want to hear again. I can talk about it by any means, but you can also go back to previous live streams and figure that out. Maybe that's what I should do is put in the title. I should put in what we're talking about exactly rather than just say live stream. But I put the date and the, you know, and the fact that we're doing a live stream, you know. So I think that's good too. But anyway. Oh, what other questions you got? Let me know. You know, we got Skylar in the comments section. We got Zoomy in the comments section. The guy I helped with the math homework. Corey's in the comments section. Cringe Bunny's in there. Arthur Morgan's there. You know, thank you for tuning in. I know I saw Jack earlier. If I missed anyone, I apologize in advance. Let me know that you're here in the comments section. I'd love to give you a shout out and all that good stuff. You know, I was on, I did jump on someone's live stream earlier with the arms room and said hello. So if you jump on here, Mr. Arms Room, you're welcome at some point. But anyway, just letting you know. So, but yeah, we're at about the hour mark right now. We'll probably go for, I want to say another 15 minutes. 15 minutes to 30 minutes, depending on the conversation that we get. I think I've kind of talked a lot about this rifle as much as possible. I don't want to go ad nauseum about it because then I'll just start repeating myself. I think I've covered a pretty good territory. Boom Chicka Baby. First off, welcome. Thank you for joining. And second, is that your favorite gun? Yes, it is. Henry rifles in general, not Henry the maker, but the Henry 1860 model is my favorite type of toggle link lever action. That doesn't mean I don't like 66s. That doesn't mean I don't like 73s. I do like them. They're just not my favorite. And the reason why is because not a lot of people use them. I like to utilize weapons that not a whole lot of people utilize, are rarely used, but are still functional. I don't want to utilize weapons that are just not utilized at all, and also they're not utilized for a good reason. But I am a fan of unique guns. For those of you who watch this channel, you're going to see that I have a Henry 1860 replica. I like them so much I have two of them. You're going to see I have a Colt Lightning magazine rifle. I also have a Colt Frontier 6-shooter, a Colt 1903. I got a lot of Colts, man. A Swiss K31, Sharps. I do have a Sharps. What else I got? I got a Spencer. That's another unique one that you don't see a whole lot often. We'll talk about that one too, I'm sure. That's probably for another live stream. By all means, please hit me up with the like button so that we can kind of get this live stream out there to the audience. I know that we got a lot of people that are tuned into the channel but don't always watch, and I know that's just the way that YouTube is set up. You have certain people that love shorts videos and that's all they watch. And then you have people that love long form content and that's all they watch. And so they may not, those two might not cross over. Live streams, I don't know. So I may get a mix, but we'll see. Anyway, yeah, good question. Thank you for asking, Boom Chicka Baby. So, what else? So, maybe I'll just ramble on about, my life or things that are going on. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I'd like to try to stay on topic if I'm talking, but, if I have to go off topic, I will. Because I legitimately want to answer questions. So, but yeah. Anyway, just to let you guys know, I do want to do a short, shameless plug, if you will. In the comments section, in the description of this video, I am working on getting an original Henry. Yes, one of the 13,000 originals that were made back in the 1860s. And we are doing a fundraiser for it. Some of you guys are participating. Some of you have yet to hear about it. Yes, I know that I talk about it quite often, but I have to get the information out there. I'm doing a fundraiser to go ahead and purchase one of those. And for as little as $1, if you contribute to that fundraiser, you'll be entered into a gun raffle as well as into a cash prize. And that will be announced whenever the fundraiser is done. So however long that takes, guys. But this is a channel that is run by the viewers. I like to give full disclosure about that with people when it comes to how I'm paid. Basically, do I receive money through YouTube AdSense? Yes, I do. It's not a lot, contrary to popular belief, and I'm sure that has to do with view. It mostly has to do with watch time anyway. The more people that watch your videos, and it's sometimes the different types of content. The different content also pays, okay? So you do more long-form content, the more you're paid for it. You do shorts form, you are paid for it, but I'm telling you, it's kind of pitiful, to be honest. You're talking about a cent per 1,000 views on shorts. That's really small. So yeah, I'm not, you may see a few videos that I have that have like 1 million views or more, and I can tell you that, to be honest with you, if you added all that up, I think the most I was ever paid for one video was $2,000, and that wasn't all at once, okay? We're talking over the span of a year. So I just want to be full disclosure on that one. Also, sponsorships, I know, is another way that people get paid. This channel has done sponsors in the past, but I'll be honest, it's been with individuals, not companies. If they were companies, they were really small companies. And even then, those companies didn't pay me. They typically let me borrow the item that was utilized, and I would do a review for them. And, I kind of stopped doing that. And I'll be honest, and here's the answer why. I stopped doing it because I didn't like pushing it onto my audience. I felt like, to an extent, I was pushing something that I knew something about. I wasn't really interested in myself, so why would my audience be into it? And I didn't think it was right. So I kind of stopped doing that, and I started just accepting personal donations from people, mostly through Patreon, mostly through Buy Me a Coffee, and that's been fine so far, and I'm good with doing that. So sponsorships, I can understand why people would do it, and I'm not going to hate on YouTubers that do. I just don't do it here, and so, that's just me. But obviously, times do change, things like that. I'll try to be as upfront about things as I can, okay? Internet, stay on topic, and, kind of a smiley, laughy face on there by Johnny Doe. Yeah, well, to be honest with you, I'm in a room all by myself talking to people on the internet that, unless you enter in the comment section, I'm not really engaging with you. So you could essentially say I'm having a whole conversation in my head and just staring at a camera. Kind of sounds crazy, doesn't it? But I'm here nonetheless. and it is fun. I am enjoying myself. I hope you are too. So, yeah. But anyway, just go away. Go ahead and ask your questions, and we'll go from there. And like I said, we'll see where this goes. So far, it's been a pretty good conversation. Johnny Doe gives me a thumbs up. Thank you. Make sure that you hit that thumbs up on that video. Let me, get a little bit for the algorithm. Come on, help me out, man. You know, you wanna, you know, or you could give me a thumbs down. I don't even know if that's an option. Part of being a content creator is sometimes you don't really notice that stuff. You just focus on your comments, what you can do. And there are a few things that content creators can do that's different than a regular user of YouTube. So, but depends. Anyway, I'd say what's the great thing about being a content creator is that I get to share my knowledge, what I know, with people that share the same interest on a platform that is essentially forever. I think that is really awesome. And I almost want to say, and there was another gun tuber that mentioned it, and I think it's great. It's an excellent example. Basically, YouTube is the Library of Alexandria for people, and it's kind of one of those things that where you're going to get the chance to spread your knowledge, and it'll be there forever, and may or may not be. I don't know. Anyway, so anyway, I just thought I'd tell you guys that. Yeah, if you're new here or if you're just jumping back on, I know that some people kind of have to come and go. But yeah, we're talking about the Henry rifle. You can kind of backplay all this stuff, hopefully on the replay. But if you have any questions of me, if you have any questions of the rifle itself, let me know. I'll try and answer it. I'll be as honest as I can. I'm not being paid by these guys to talk about it. I've had a Henry repeating arms rifle for, God, over 10 years now. It's the same thing. It's the same rifle I've had. Never gotten rid of it. Don't plan on getting rid of it. So let me know. Anyway, I hope you guys are also enjoying the background. That's something that I kind of changed up recently, with something I kind of changed up recently to kind of maybe get more people interested. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, yeah, things are going great. And, let me know if you have any questions in the comments section. We'll go from there. That'll do, Red. That'll do. Come here. You want to get a cameo? I have a dog here. Puppy, if you will. Come here, buddy. Shh. You want to see the puppy? Stay on. That'll do. Come on. Shh. Get up here. Shh. Come here. Shh. Trying to get him up here, and he doesn't really want to. He's a bit of a medium-sized dog. Maybe you can see him. I don't know. You might be able to see his nose. But he's here. He's just a puppy. He's a good dog. He keeps me company. But, Mr. Red. Red the dog. He's a good dog. Anyway. Well, let me know where you're watching from, what you guys are doing. What do you guys do for your day job? Always interested. If you have any questions about me or my past, we can talk about it. If you have a question, let me know. Just drop it in the comment section. Let's get a conversation started, guys. I think it'd be fun. I can talk for quite a long time. Okay. Johnny Doe says, if considering a conversion conversion cylinder for a Pieta 1858 replica, would you go with 45 ACP cylinder or 45 Colt? Okay. If you're considering one, for me personally, I have a lot of 45 Colt ammunition. I would get both. If it's a one or the other, I'll go with 45 Colt. Because the reason why is I love 45 Colt. I am a 45 Colt nut, if you will. I have a lot of that ammo. I have a lot of guns chambered in it. I have one gun chambered in 45 ACP, and you want to take a guess what that is? So it's like I'm not really going to shoot it. I don't really intend to shoot it in that Pieta. But, I mean, that's my opinion. But if you want to get, why settle for just one? Why don't you get both? But yeah, I mean, that's my recommendation. I love 45 Colt, so that's what I would do. Johnny Doe says, makes sense, thanks. Yeah, awesome, man. Well, I'm glad I could help you. So, if you got more questions, let me know, man. I'm here. Is your 45 ACP a 1911? Yes, it is. I have what is called a 45. I have a Colt Classic Series 1911. That's what I have. It is a Series 70. It is a mix between the 1911 and 1911A1. This was before I actually knew a little bit more about it. I knew that I wanted a more traditional, just 1911. That's what I wanted. And I thought that's what I was getting. And I was kind of a novice on it, and I just didn't look close enough, and I ended up buying the thing, and I thought, oh, great, it's a great price, and it matches exactly what I think I'm looking for, and so I bought it, and I'm not upset with it by any means, but it's not a 1911 traditionally, as they were made. So I kind of got a cross between. I got the best of both worlds, if you will, on that one. It's a good gun. It's a pretty looking gun, in my opinion. Shoot, we could even bring it on the channel here and talk about it. Shoot, I can even maybe even change the background, bring up the different guns, and then we can sit here and talk about those all day. I've got like 48 different guns we could sit here and talk about that I have personal experience with, that I personally own. So, I mean, it really depends on what you want to talk about, man. But, I mean, 45 ACP 1911, yes, it is. So that's the only one that I have chambered in 45 ACP. What do you think about the 2011? I want one. I don't. God, who is it? There is a channel that I know, and he is a follower of mine. I don't know if he watches this stuff, but his channel literally is the name of I've never met a gun I didn't like. And every time I ask him a question, that's the answer he gives me, and it's just so true. And that's sometimes, it's so true. And that sometimes is the case with me. There's very few guns that I have that I don't like. I bought them for a reason. I do use them. I do shoot them. Some more than others. That is true. I don't really want a wall hanger. But I respect people that do that. Where was I going with this? So what do I think about a 2011? Yeah, I want one. I think it is the 1911 trying to keep up with the times. I think that's great. I did for a while, but I do not carry a 1911. Oh man. I do not carry a 1911. I did for a while, but I don't anymore, and the reason is just because there's other capacity guns out there that are literally half the weight or less. So that's what I think. So with that being said, I think 2011s, and I would carry one if I bought one. I haven't held one in a while, so I don't know exactly how heavy they are. But I really, if I'll put it this way. Let me put it this way. If I were to get a 2011, the one that I want specifically is made by Wilson Combat. Just because they're good quality. I know that they've been worked on really well, and they're meant specifically for daily carry. And I don't do modern competitions, so I mean, not to say that I wouldn't utilize Wilson Combat in that, and I'm sure that is something that people do. But I would get it specifically for daily carry. I have really not a whole lot of interest in modern competitions anyway, so that's what I would get it for, and I would probably get a 2011 Wilson Combat. So that's my opinion on it. I hope that actually was an answer to your question. If you have more follow-up, let me know. Okay. Hi, can you help me with 7 to the 9th power X? It's, you're going to have to do square roots of that, I'm sure, and, figure out what to the 9 something power, to the 9th power something equals 15. So what, 7 to whatever power equals 15. That's pretty much what it means. So yeah. Now you're going beyond me. So anyway, Johnny Doe says go online and find a website called that about alpha. It's amazing for algebra. Okay, well, I'm beyond my school days, so my primary school and all that, so I don't do math, at least to that extent. I can add, I can do 2 plus 2. But anyway, so give me another thumbs up, thank you. All that stuff. Yeah. Anyway, we're almost approaching the 1.5 hour mark here. We've got about 8 minutes left. Country music. My grandma got hit by an 18-wheeler and my mom has severe toe fungus. It's very sad. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, man. I really am. And you said hi. Hello. Welcome to the channel. Drop me a comment. Hit me a like. All that stuff. Get get some people out here. But you got hit by an 18-wheeler, huh? Well, I'm sorry. I'm sure the car isn't that well. Probably totaled it. I'm sure that's just bad news all around, man. Sorry about your mom. So, I know a lot of people go through hard times, but thanks for letting me know. And I'll think better thoughts for you. I hope you pull out for that one if it's really causing you a rough time. Just know that someone around this world cares about you. If nothing else, I'll let you know I care about you. So, cheers. Okay? Keep your head up. Anyway. Yeah. What other questions you guys got? Hit me up. All about it. So, yep, thank you. Whoever gave me a like, appreciate it. We're at 7 likes now. So, we're working on it. But anyway, we talked about the Henry rifle. Talked a little bit about me. Hey, Arms Room. Welcome, man. Oh, I was just talking about you, dude. Hey, I would like everybody, if you're watching, to know that Mr. Arms Room on here does hold live streams quite a bit. He's got good stuff on his channel. Man has, I want to say, 600 some odd videos. He's doing well. And I think you should go check him out. So I hope that helps you out, Mr. Arms Room. Please feel free to ask me questions, man. That's kind of what I'm doing on this live stream. I know you were on earlier and you were talking all about that stuff, and I hope you got some good conversation. I didn't stick around for the whole thing, but hey, thank you. I'm going to go back through my questions here. But anyway, thank you, Arms Room. I'll answer your questions here in a little bit. Johnny Doe says, what is the smallest caliber you would carry for defense? Well, I'll tell you what. Me personally, I already carry a relatively small caliber. And I don't want to go any smaller than that. And I don't want to go any smaller than that just because I specifically wanted this caliber. I carry, honestly, a 30 Super Carry. And for those of you who don't know, 30 Super Carry was a proprietary cartridge that kind of came out a couple years ago. It's not that old, but I like it. I got it specifically for the capacity, all that stuff. And, I carry, for those of you who don't know, my carry rotation revolves around a Glock 19X and a Smith & Wesson M&P. That's what I carry for every day. My M&P I carry all the time. My Glock I'll rotate in every now and then depending on what I have on. But my M&P is great because I can throw that thing into a pocket and I have 17 rounds in it. And that's why I like the 30 Super Carry. Okay? So anyway, I hope that answers your question. So I don't want to say, what is the smallest caliber you would carry for defense? I don't want to give you an absolute on that because I specifically wanted 30 Super Carry. That may not be someone's favorite. That may not be as effective to certain people. But I got it for the reason of capacity and that I could carry that thing in just about anything. I'm a bigger guy, so I can just throw certain things into my pocket. I can conceal a 1911 actually pretty well. For some people, that's kind of hard. I can carry a 1911 also, and I have done it. Do I want to? I don't. So I don't. I don't carry a 1911. I know that there's people that are going to give me hate for that, but there's a reason I have my Smith & Wessons. The Arms Room says, thanks, bro. And he says, you're the best, man. You too, bro. Keep doing what you're doing, Arms Room. Keep doing what you're doing. You inspire me. You're one of the reasons why I'm even doing this live stream. So just know that you made an impact. Kevin Menard, hi. Hey. Welcome to the channel. Glad you're on. Let me know what you think. Ask me any questions about the gun up here. This is kind of what we're talking about. Henry Repeating Arms. And you can ask anything about me in general. Johnny Doe says, this is my first time hearing about 30 Super Carry. I'll have to check it out. Thanks. Yeah. It's kind of funny because back when I bought it, Smith & Wesson was the only one chambered in it. So I'm sure it's spread out, but it's not a super popular cartridge. And I'll compare it to an elongated 32. 32 ACP essentially is what it is. It's a 100-grain bullet, at least in the defensive ammunition that I've seen. I think it usually runs about a 100-grain bullet, and it's about 3/4 larger than an 32 ACP. So, is it a pricey round? Yeah, I say it is. That's neither here nor there in my opinion. If I'll be honest, when you're talking to a guy who buys pretty unique and expensive guns, so ammunition, I know people are price sensitive on it. I do reload. I don't reload 30 Super Carry, but I will say that if I gotta buy 30 Super Carry, I don't care what the price is. I'll buy it. That may not be good money sense, but if I need it, I'll buy it. So yeah, I think it is pricey, but pricey is relative. So anyway, Yeah. So I have carried 45 ACP. I've carried 9 mm. I've carried 30 super carry. I've carried 32 very shortly. In everyday carry. I have a Colt 1903 that I carried a couple times. And to be honest with you, when you start carrying antique guns, it's just, you feel bad, you know? Because, I mean, when you carry things, you don't really give much of a garbage about them sometimes. At least I don't. My carry guns I beat up. You know, I, uh, I, uh, I don't really take care of them as much as I probably should. Um, I obviously am not saying I sit here and make sure I've got a barrel obstruction, but I mean, if the thing gets rained on or gets sweated on, I'm not sitting here oiling the thing up like crazy. You know, now, mind you, people want to make sure that stuff works, and I do. I don't, if I know that the thing is not going to be effective, I will clean the gun, but I'm not sitting here babying it. You know, so. But yeah, that's just my opinion. So anyway, but yeah. Any other questions out there? Come on, guys, let's get it on. Let's talk a little bit. You know, depending on how much we got, we'll see. But yeah, so we got some good content on here. I took a World War I Luger to CCW class. It was a hoot. Yeah, I'm sure you got a lot of weird looks, and I'm sure you got a lot of what's that. Did you do that just because you wanted to show off? I gotta ask that question. You know, funny thing actually. Now that you mentioned that, my carry gun, the carry gun I took for my concealed carry class was my 1903, and people were like, "Is that gonna work?" You know? Yeah. Okay. Yep. Well, I mean, you're going to run into that because, I mean, it depends on who's in the concealed carry class. But in my concealed carry class, people weren't really familiar with firearms in general. So, mission accomplished. Yeah, I'm sure you started up a lot of conversations. Yeah, and that's half the fun. Good one. So, um, yeah, World War I Luger to CCW class. Man, I would love to see. I would be that guy that would be asking you questions. Yeah, I'd be like, can I hold it? Can I touch it? I would be that guy. That's what I would be if I was in that class with you. But anyway, so hey, Arms Room, if you're on, were you able to do more M1 Garand pings for people? I want to know if you did, and if you ended up doing a lot of them, not as much. Was it as effective? Let me know. I'd kind of like to know. But anyway, yeah, Arms Room, man, he's got a lot of guns on there, and he does a lot of shorts content too. So he's a good one to follow. But anyway, yeah, I think we'll go probably for about 5 more minutes. I think that's about it. That's probably about all I can take. I mean, if I'm just sitting here talking to myself on camera. So, plus I need to get up and move around. Been sitting here for a little bit. But I mean, yeah, if you got questions, ask me, about anything. I'm here to entertain, educate, talk to, whatever. I'm here. I'm here at your disposal. So if you got any questions, let me know. Enjoy a cup of coffee, whatever you're drinking. So, But yeah, man, it's great. So we'll see. And as I said, I can always change the background at some point. We can have a new conversation on that, but I don't know, 5 minutes to spare. I've been talking about a Henry rifle for better part of 40 minutes, you know, and I gave you guys mostly negatives, critiques, not, you know, not sitting here saying, oh, well, it's the greatest rifle. Well, I mean, I did. I did say that it is my favorite, and I did say that I love to shoot it. And I did say that, it's got some positives to it. But I talked a lot about the critiques, you know? So, good, bad, indifferent, whatever. We're just here having a grand old time. So, but yeah, thanks for jumping on, all y'all. It's been great. Are the brass components cast? Brass components. No. No, they aren't. What is cast is the internals. No, I believe it's forged. From a single block of brass light. Yeah, I know. Looking at the background picture. No, it's not. I mean, for the price that you're paying, they better not be cast. Granted, I know that companies could shortchange you, but no. No, it doesn't feel cast, doesn't look cast. It looks all one piece, but the internals are cast. Injection molding, actually. MIM parts. That's what they call them. They are MIM parts. I think it's to help make things a little smoother. Haven't had any issues with it, but I mean, historically speaking, it's not accurate. So that's kind of what we're talking about when we're saying the difference between the U-Birdie versus the Henry repeating arms. The internals are going to be different. Yeah, that's internals only. Okay, just as a reminder. Okay. Yeah. Good question. Thank you. You know. Yep. You're welcome. You're welcome, Johnny. Yeah, that'll do, Red. You want attention? Come here. Well, anyway, what other questions you guys got? What? Let me ask you guys a question. Oh, my lunch break is over. You got to go back to work, man. That sucks. Good stream. Yeah. Oh, good. Maybe we'll do more. But yeah, I'm sorry, man. That sucks when you got to go back to work. But I was hoping to catch people on lunch breaks anyway, so I know that, I'm not on my lunch break. I'm working. But yeah, anyway, so that'll do. Come here. Good dog. Anyway, keep up the good work. Thank you, Johnny. I will. I will keep up the good work and keep up the fight. We try. We aim to please here. Me and the red dog. I don't know if you guys can see the puppy down here. He's got his little nose on my knee, trying to get my attention. He's kind of trying to detract me from you guys. But, anyway. Had a few other gun tubers on here, YouTubers on here. Had Arizona Ghost Riders the other day, and then Arms Room came on for a little bit. So, good to hear. Good to hear from him. What are you doing? So, anyway. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, guys. If you have any questions, still shoot them in the comments section, and I will keep you guys in on the replay. It's been good. I've enjoyed it. I hope you have a blast.